We're going to do it again and again and again until we get at least 100,000 views, Brian.
I can't wait.
We
won't.
need one of our shows, Brian, to get us 100,000 views, either your side or my side. I wouldn't even care which one.
Yeah, works for me. We got close last year.
We did all together. So Brian, this is Brian White, by the way, over there. This is Randy Kirk on my side. And one of us is, I hope you don't get us confused, because we do kind of look and act alike. I'm sure all of you agree with that. Okay, Brian, what do we want to talk about this morning? I think we're going to talk about competition. The competition is coming. I don't know if you've heard that. We've been told for a very, very long time that the competition is coming. There seems to be some problems with some of the competition. I've just noticed some of them are not doing that well. What's going on?
Earnings are tough. Earnings are down. Lucid's a good example. They said, "Oh, I can't believe Elon had a difficulty ramping production. Production's easy." And then, of course, we got to watch how incredibly difficult getting a product to mass production is for Lucid. Production is hard. Elon says prototypes are easy, production is hard. Prototypes are actually hard too. Yeah. And then so is production, and then so is logistics. It's all hard. So there's difficulties. And the biggest problem a lot of them are starting to recognize is cost control is very, very difficult.
Yeah. So let's start with the US startups. We'll start with the startups. Okay. So you mentioned Lucid. Lucid looks to me, in my opinion, there's no chance in the world they continue to be in business unless the Saudis bail them out again. And last time I checked, the Saudi princes are smarter than that. I'm not sure, but what do you think?
It's a small amount of money for them. Billions is not that big of a check for them to have to cut. So that's not dead in the water. The problem they're having is the Saudis already own 60% of the company, and the market cap keeps falling. The stock keeps falling, and it will continue to fall until the next infusion of cash. Because if you look at their cash on hand over the years, you will just see it just goes down, 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 and then a spike with a cash infusion, and then it goes down until the next cash infusion. And each time they do that, that dilutes the shareholders that they already have. So even if they get more cash to ramp a mid-sized product, apparently Gravity has already launched. No one has seen it, but maybe it has. It's an expensive product to make. It is not going to save them in any way. If they can survive long enough to get a mid-size into production, they're going to need billions of dollars for the equipment and space in which to build it. A cash infusion is critical to their survival. Without it, they are gone. But if you add $5 billion to a company that's only worth $3 billion, now the Saudis own basically the whole company. And I just think they would go private at that point. So the Saudis could continue to throw good money after bad. I would argue all of their money is bad money, but Peter Rawlinson disagrees. And with that accent, he can say anything he wants.
That's right. That's absolutely true. So anyway, I don't see them as being competition ever. I don't think it really matters how much money gets thrown at them. I think they're dead in the water. We have, of course, Rivian. Elon said the other day, you got 6 quarters, buddies. You better burn the boats, because if you don't, that's not what Elon said. I am paraphrasing in my own inimitable way, or it is imitable. What is the opposite?
I could imitate it. Yeah.
What's the opposite of anyway? So Rivian, I think they're making some nice looking, okay, decent cars. I'm not sure that they're in the right price point. I think they're competing in a price range where there's going to be too much competition for them to survive no matter what they do. What do you think?
I think their survival is a lot more certain than Lucid's. Their path is at least correct. Yes. Oh, really? It's higher than -5 with a margin of error of ±5. So the Rivian, they're burning a lot less cash than Lucid. while selling 10 times more vehicles. That's a start. That's a start. It's not enough, but it'll get you moving. And at least they recognize they need to do some layoffs of salaried employees. These aren't the assemblers who are being let go. These are, and you've seen, how many organizations have you seen that could cut 10% of their salaried staff without much pain? And I think that's where Rivian is at. They're working on their cost controls, trying to get their cash burn under control. The vehicles I've seen are very good. The quality is good. The fitment is good. They top customer satisfaction surveys, and they should, because these $60,000, $70,000 trucks feel like $120,000 trucks, because they are. And that's the problem. They need to, in addition to just streamlining, they need to start trimming out features. A flashlight in the door adds a whole lot of expense, but no value. A detachable Bluetooth speaker is a gimmick. Get rid of it. And they're going to be, on March 7th, unveiling their next gen vehicle, their smaller, I guess, crossover SUV, I believe. And that is hopefully going to have a lot more simple construction. It's going to hopefully get rid of a lot of the expensive gimmicks that made the first two wildly unprofitable. And they may also need a cash infusion. I don't know if that 6 quarters of cash is going to carry them into production of a whole new vehicle that's designed for even greater production volume, but they would at least be in a position where they could raise money. So I am not ready to count Rivian out just yet. And at the very least, if they are gross margin positive on each delivery van, which is very likely, because those are not tricked out with bells and whistles, they're just better than most of the competition. They've got better climate control or better drivability. Those can, if they focus there, get as many of those out as you can. Every dollar is going to count, as long as it's not pulling away from the other businesses, from the other product lines. Full speed ahead.
Well, the other day, a little bird came and told me that you were working as hard as you could, piling up money, looking in the sofa, trying to grab as many quarters as you could, because there was some opportunity in Nikola. Because
that's hilarious. So Nikola's in quite a world of hurt. I don't know if they've already been delisted, but their stock is in the delist range. You have to stay over $1 a share, and they're struggling with that. Nikola's got problems within the company in terms of getting their vehicles out. They've got problems in the culture of the company. They're focusing too much on hydrogen, and it's a dead end sufficiently clearly that it's going to kill them. They even sold off a lot of their hydrogen assets. Finally, something good. Their partnership with Iveco, where they get their bodies from, their gliders, is in jeopardy. And now they've got Trevor coming back through his holding company to try and replace half the directors with a bunch of hype bros who want to restore Nikola to its former excitement. Guys, that wasn't legit excitement. That was pure hype. This is a bad idea. And the board of directors looked at these nominees and said, no, not one of these people is qualified to be on the board of directors of anything bigger than a skateboard company. And I don't mean an EV skateboard. I mean the wooden kind. So they're having a lot of internal strife and external strife. And
but isn't that the perfect time to invest, is when a company is completely, as beaten down as they possibly can be? And why are you insulting skateboard companies?
I'm not. I'm saying that their business is a lot less complicated than anything that moves cargo. So I don't know.
All right. We have a couple of other startups to talk about. We got Faraday and we got Fisker.
Yes. Well, let's start with Faraday, because that'll be quick. Who? What are they even up to? I'm just always surprised to find that they're still around somehow. What's great is I was looking at a chart of how much money each company had burned through since inception, and Faraday's is very low. on
Oh.
account of them having done very little.
Sure.
They haven't. They made a couple prototypes, and that's about it. If you work there, what do you do all day? Do you just hang out and like chat at the water cooler? I don't know. And if it's work from home, I guarantee you, no one's working, because on what? And even if they're in the office, no one's working, because again, on what? So Faraday is not an investment. It's an idea.
Yes. And so, as long as we're talking about companies that start with F, how about Fisker? This is their,
Yeah.
what, 700th time in business or something? Or
I think it's just the second, but
only second. Okay.
and this one they got a little further, but they're not doing great. They've got some big structural problems. The first is they don't make their own cars. Magna makes their cars. They're very good cars. Magna also makes the Supra and the BMW Z3, I think. Magna has made cars for other companies many times throughout their history. This is something they're pretty good at. The Fisker is not getting good reviews from objective reviewers. The owners who've bought them seem quite happy, but I wouldn't call them the most objective of people, especially compared to reviewers whose other reviews you can look at to see how they've assessed things comparatively. So their problem is they've only got hundreds of millions cash on hand, and to build a factory to bring all this in-house would cost billions, 2 to 4 billion easily.
Right.
And then you've got to find the right people who know how to create and run a factory, which is very difficult. Those people would be very expensive to get. And what we've seen from all the other startups is it takes years, maybe 5 to 10 years, to get those in-house competencies up to speed, and they would not have the luxury of that kind of time. This isn't 2018, 2019, 2020, when EV startup money was just being thrown around like confetti. This is a very tough time to attract investment, and I don't see a competitive advantage from Fisker. I see a lot of comments on my videos, people saying, oh, Tesla should buy Fisker, or so-and-so should buy Fisker, or somebody should buy Lucid. The IP is not sufficiently strong to warrant that. It is, at the end of the day, just another EV. Maybe they've got some battery tech that's this much better, or some motor tech that's this much better. Great. Wait for them to go broke and buy the patent. That's all you need to do. But I just don't think they have any substantial advantage that would make any of these companies worthy of buyout. They could do a merger where they take their greatest weaknesses from two companies and combine them. But I think that would just create a bigger weakness.
It sounds like it to me. So I've mentioned many times on this channel that Elon Musk will be, there will be master's MBA courses that will be about what Elon Musk did in this or in this or in this, because it's so completely different than what's ever been done before. Things like the way he builds his factories, the way he runs his factories, etc. And GM seems also, I think they're on the verge now of having a master's class created on how to fail at product rollouts. And they say they have a bunch more coming.
Well, they're playing the greatest hits. They've been singing that tune since 2012. It's important that you have a purpose in life, and some people's purpose is to serve as a lesson to others, which is what GM is going for. They're going to have problems. The Ultium platform turned out to be the penultium platform, because now they've moved to a new platform, which is, they were all in on pouches. Pouches, as Elon had warned, have problems when it comes to EVs, because the drain is so intense that it can cause the pouches to swell. And swelling is your enemy when you have a finite amount of space and it's confined. So it's created problems, and they're hard to overcome. GM, it looks like, is switching back to cylindrical cells, like kind of everybody. Remember, Tesla was mocked for a long time for using laptop batteries. Guys, a battery is a battery. There are advantages to different form factors, and it looks like the pouch does not have an advantage in the automotive space. So what's GM going to do? Well, they're still trying to move forward with plans for a bunch of models next year. Well, okay, maybe not next year. We'll push them out one more year, and then we'll get serious. either you're serious or you're not. And right now, GM is not. Mary has been there for a long time, and I am confident she will leave very rich and happy long before they get serious about EVs.
Well, we have their cousin down the street, Ford, and they seem to be doing better than GM in terms of their offerings. But I feel like their offerings have been too little, way too expensive, and that people are not willing to pay that much more money in order to just get a battery. They need more pizzazz. Things like, I don't know, over-the-air updates, a new look. Anyway, what's your thoughts?
Famously, cars would have big changes once a year, and they would kind of store up all the improvements from the 23 model to the 24 rather than taking an iterative approach like Tesla, where hey, if we've got an improvement, roll it out today. So what year your Tesla is modeled isn't as important as when it was manufactured. So whereas with a Ford, looking at what year model it is makes a big difference, even if the change, Ford, when I was at the Fully Charged show in Vancouver, BC, I went to the Ford booth and said, "You've got the 2024 Mach-E here. What changes do you have?" And he goes, "There are none. It's the same car." Okay, well, that's wow. So you've gone from not iterative and not annual changes. That's bold. That's Ford bold. But really, what I think is going on, and Farley has said that they've got a Skunk Works program going on in the background where they're trying to build the next car. The Mach-E is pretty good. It is a pretty good car. The problem is it's competing with some pretty great cars. The Lightning is a pretty good truck, but it's an electrified F-150. It's not an electric car. It's a car that's been electrified. And those are going to introduce inefficiencies in terms of cost, in terms of performance, in terms of everything. And as a result, and I don't know if I shared this with you, but yeah, we talked about this last week. There's of the 35,000 Lightnings ever built, over 10,000 are still on lots. Of the 110,000 Mach-E's ever built, over 20,000 are still on dealer lots. And that is a problem because most of those ones stuck on lots are 2023s, and we are 6 months from the 2025 model year. That's going to cause a problem because you built up this belief that model year is the only thing that matters. And it's going to cause a problem. So for the future of Ford, how do I feel? Still cautiously optimistic. They're still making enough money on their legacy vehicles to fund the losses on their electric division. They're being transparent about how much money they're losing, and they're not actually losing $30,000, $40,000 per car because that includes all the R&D, all the upfront costs, all the new facilities. It includes a lot of things that get amortized over the life of the models that they'll eventually produce. These losses, to me, feel like the losses that Tesla was seeing when they were ramping the Model S. These do not concern me all that much. And Ford at least appears to have a commitment and an understanding that they have to do this if they wish to remain a global brand past 2035.
So then we have this company that's French, maybe Belgian and American. Their headquarters is in one place and they call them, anyway, it's called, and nobody knows their name. It's Stellantis.
And their stock ticker looks very similar to Tesla's.
And so you have this Stellantis. Now, Stellantis has a bunch of great brands, Jeep and Ram, and and so Peugeot. I mean, they got a few decent. There's another French. What's the other French?
Renault.
Renault, which actually they do quite a volume in. That's one of their unit volume, very, very high on the Renault. But anyway, so you got Stellantis. I have continued to believe that they are the dark horse, and I mean that in a good way, that they seem to be doing the right things in terms of profit margins, the right things in terms of maybe introducing some cars that are from the ground up, battery electric. I'm not sure, but what do you think?
So in Europe, their European design department has been working on EVs. They are not the kind of EVs that you would buy in the US necessarily. The range is too short and the cost is not necessarily competitive. But in Europe, gas prices are substantially higher than here, meaning the differential between your fuel bill at the end of the month is greater than it would be here. What Stellantis is doing in the US is taking a heavy into hybrids approach. So they've got the Jeeps, a lot of them are now hybrids, and you can get 35 miles of all electric range. I had an opportunity to do one of those car show rides in a Jeep Wrangler, a hybrid, and they had to keep it in electric mode because we were indoors. So it would climb over stairs, go up the big hill, stop halfway down the other side of the hill. It was a very fun, compelling, partly electric vehicle. In the US, this strategy makes sense based on the way the laws are currently written. A plug-in hybrid with a US made battery can qualify for incentives. And if someone is eco-conscious, they can plug it in when they get home and use this as primarily an electric vehicle. I think it's a half measure and I wouldn't want one. But from a business perspective, if the domestic supply of batteries is limited, which it will be for the next probably 10 years, they can get 3 to 5 times as many hybrids out of the same battery supply as they could if they went pure electric. Their buyers will qualify for some incentive. If they're involved in any way in making the batteries, they'll get some incentive there, or at least their manufacturer will, which should hopefully bring down their prices. So it would be, I think their strategy will allow them to survive, even though I don't like it. And maybe at some point, the European design centers will create an EV that's sufficiently compelling that they can then just rebadge it for the US market.
All right. And then the Germans seem to have made the biggest mess, maybe, of anybody. And it's just like right down the line. Mercedes, BMW, Volkswagen. I mean, they just all seem to be Audi. They all seem to be doing things that don't make sense.
So we'll start with Audi. That's the easiest one. You know, their e-tron GT is not selling well. And why would it? It's a slightly more boring looking version of the Porsche Taycan. If you're going to spend the same money, why would you get the Audi instead of the Porsche? I don't know. It's a great looking car, but if I'm spending that money to buy that car, I'm going to buy the other one. I don't know. Then you've got, and their other EVs are fine. They're too expensive for what they are, but they're fine. Then you've got Mercedes, who has announced, you know what? We're actually going to continue developing internal combustion engines well past 2030. We're just going to keep going because why not? Why wouldn't we want to be forbidden from selling cars in our own market in the near future? They're hoping for a legislative change that I think is overly ambitious. I would not bet the company on a future political outcome. That's crazy.
Moreover, what in the world has got them thinking that what are they not reading? What are they not listening to about the fact that batteries are going to keep getting cheaper and cheaper and cheaper, and ultimately you're going to be buying an electric car, equivalent car, for so much less than a gas car, not counting the savings you get in terms of charging it by electricity instead of gasoline.
If we're in 2035 and someone says, I'm buying a dyno burner, you'd say, wow, so you have an extra 10 grand to spend up front and 10 grand to spend over the life of it just for the fuel and another 5 to 10 grand in maintenance and repairs. You must be rich.
If you can find a gas station.
Yeah, they'll be around for the foreseeable future. I mean, there are still gas stations I can find that have racing gas because racing still exists, but you better look them up because there's not many. So and then we get to Volkswagen, who keeps saying that they're serious, but their offerings keep feeling less and less serious. They seem like they're going in the wrong direction, where they're getting a little bit more expensive and not as much better as you'd expect. I want to see the e-Golf again. I want to see that vehicle made as affordably as possible so they can just get them out there. But I think they might be struggling on batteries too. And then last week, I think you and I discussed the battery consortium or the EV consortium. Because I'll tell you, the problem is our managers and our engineers can't get together on one page. So what we're going to do is get the managers and engineers from a bunch of companies and not get them together on the same page, because it's going to be 5 times harder. And yeah, because if there's one thing you need, they always say more cooks in the kitchen is better.
Better, yes, absolutely.
Always.
Committees always generate the best stuff.
They make the best comedies too. Committees, oh, you bet. Yeah, it's great. I'm concerned for all of them, but the good news is these are all big international brands that are going to have to cater to the international market, the global market, and all of the biggest markets have at least partial internal combustion bans coming in the next 11 years, 11 and a half years. It's going to be problematic if they don't get real serious real quick. And you can say, well, we're going to wait for the batteries to actually get cheaper. The problem is all the cheap ones will be spoken for. You're going to end up, your dance cards will be full and you'll be left dancing with the chaperone, which is, I mean, maybe that's what you're into. I'm not here to judge unless, being judged is what you're into, in which case I'm here for you. Because
there you go.
I got to be accommodating.
If we get outside of the United States and Europe, then we go over to Asia, and we're going to actually do part 2 of this, maybe tomorrow. We're going to be talking about the Chinese and the South Koreans that seem to be doing it right. But there's this other Asian country that used to be the largest exporter in the world.
North Korea? Mm-hmm.
No. They used to be the largest exporter in the world until this year. Somebody called the Japanese, and they've got like 4 brands of really well-respected, well-known cars, maybe more than that in terms of brands, but companies will say manufacturers, at least 4 Suzuki. So 5, maybe, anyway, 4 or 5 really good brands. They are all, well, the good news for Toyota is that they're actually increasing their unit sales so far, and maybe your hybrid idea is going to work for them for a while. But what do you think is going to happen to the Japanese long term?
Well, do you want me to tell you now or tomorrow?
Tell me now, and this show is probably on today.
Okay, sure. I'll tell you now then. You're asking what is the strategy for the Japanese?
Or what do you think what do you think the strategy is or isn't? Do you think there's any chance that they will figure it out in time?
Toyota has such good engineering and so much backing and such a strong reputation that I think they can afford to fumble a few times. And that's good because that's what they have done so far. Their hybrids are very good, very efficient, very profitable, and that will definitely carry them for now. The fact that they've got an established battery supply chain means that they know how to do this. They've been building good hybrids for a very long time, and they know how to do it. If you look at the Prius Prime, it gets 55, 60 miles to the gallon, but it is still burning gas, which is a step in the wrong direction. Of course, you and I believe, right. But at least they know how to make an electric drivetrain that works, which is what they've been doing. And they are, I think they stand a very good chance of survival, but they've got to get serious. And we just haven't seen a serious EV product from them. The BuzzForks doesn't count, which is the platform they share with Subaru, is the Solterra. If you look at Nissan, they've got the Aria, which is okay. You look at Honda, they've got nothing right now. They had a little adorable car that they were only selling into Europe and parts of Asia that was maybe had 100 miles of range. It was very cool, but they discontinued it. And then, yeah, who's left? Suzuki, Subaru, yeah. Mazda. Yeah, zoom indeed. That MX-30 was a terrible car.
How about an electric Wankel? That would be.
I mean, they're already spinning, so it's a rotary in theory. Why not? So yeah, I don't know what's holding Japan back, but they've got to get real serious real quick. And when it comes to Toyota, at least, it looks like the problems that they have are one of their partnerships. They have very deep partnerships with all of their suppliers, and they feel a sense of obligation to them. And you can't go to this little shop that makes transmissions and say, guess what? You're just gone. And unfortunately, that is what they must do. Tell that transmission shop, if you'd like to start making something else, maybe we can talk. But they're not going to be able to transition to making batteries. That's crazy. They could make electric motors, maybe, but these are high precision devices that that need very strict controls, and you can't good enough it. It's got to be right, or we're losing efficiency, we're losing reliability. And making something that complicated requires expensive equipment, expensive expertise, and a wealth of understanding that I don't imagine a transmission manufacturer would have.
So over the last 2 or 3 weeks, there's been multiple articles written about the fact that it's the Chinese. Nobody even mentioned South Korea. It's the Chinese, and Tesla. That's about basically which is about what, 1/3 right now Chinese production, or a little less than 1/3 of their production is Chinese. No, about 1/3, right?
Yeah, it's got to be
close to half, actually, close to half. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, so what we've just talked about just kind of amplifies these articles. We're going to do a part 2, and we're going to talk about the Chinese and the South Koreans, because they are actually, they seem to have a very strong directionality, a very strong set of products, some of them very well priced. And I don't know, the rest of these folks are going to be looking over their shoulder and they better look quick, or they're going to find themselves a roadkill.
Yes. And I'm glad we're going to break it there, because that is a very big discussion on its own. And there are some very interesting, very compelling companies, and some head scratchers as well. So I'm looking forward to it, Randy. I will see you there.
Okay. All right. Thank you, everybody, for watching. And be sure to follow Brian in, oh no, FutureAza. Yes. Watch it. Follow him at FutureAza, wherever he is. His phone number is probably FutureAza. I'm not sure, but pretty much if you put in FutureAza, you're going to find Brian somewhere. All right. And that's it. And thanks again, Brian. And for all of you out there, it's been great talking to you.